What's going on, you guys? It's your Huggable Hipster here, and welcome to today's review of Ghostwire Tokyo. Now, going back in time in gaming is never easy, but with a well-crafted story and well-segmented sequences of events that happen, you can make almost anything come to life and become reality. With well-segmented sequences of events, chapters, as a whole, this game is digestible and will stick with you and carry you through a mesmerizing nightmare. Ghosts that look like Slender Man and shadows that cast a mesmerizing song, I think it's safe to say that classic horror is back and it's here to stay. While this game does deal with some pretty heavy topics, it also throws in modern action and fast-paced sequences that will keep you on your feet, with easy-to-maneuver controls that act like a ballet and creative sequences that utilize your partner in crime, KK. This game quickly turns into gaming acrobatics. When Shinji Mikami and his team create something, there are three possible reactions: awe, confusion, and fear of what's to come. Since Mikami-san and director Kimura-san create a world like a sinkhole, traps you, and you don't realize how far you've gone until it's too late and you're in for the long haul. Experiencing this game was like having a tidal wave of emotions hit you all at once. There's one story plot line, there's another one that's interwoven into it, and then you have the conclusion of the game. I was left crying. And while those tidal waves of emotions were hitting me all at once, there were still questions that needed to be answered in this game that lingered in the air for too long at certain points. Whether those tension points or buildups, I'm not sure, but I feel like I was running a race that I could never win. Now, much like some parts of Resident Evil, The Evil Within, or even Silent Hill, this game managed to keep up with the times and create an immersive atmosphere to get sucked into, which is something I don't think a lot of games do nowadays. I feel like they try to do one thing and they stick with it instead of trying to really immerse their players. Now, while there are parts of the game that felt repetitive, this game managed to pull me in with its wonderful story. All games nowadays have repetitive gameplay. There's no way around that, since it's a form of predictability that is needed. Since Ghostwire Tokyo makes the trite parts of the game fun, it's in a sense easier to see past the mundane or boring parts because there's so much happening within those parts that can seem to drag on. When first coming into the game, I saw instantly the psychological concept of disassociating. As humans, we disassociate all the time. There are other forms of disassociation, though, that are more harmful and created as a coping mechanism at a young age. This concept of disassociating in the game is linked to KK and Akito. While KK is a spirit that has possessed Akito, there will be segments in the game where Akito is on his own, out of the disassociation, if you will, and he has to fend for himself in this demonic world. Being on your own without any powers shows us just how much we need that other part of us, KK, to survive. All of the classic horror themes and old school vibes and telling us a story of acceptance in death, Ghostwire Tokyo does something that not a lot of games do. Are you ready for this? And that's creating a sense of purgatory, that kind of in-between feeling within a game. Now, games have done something of where there's that waiting feeling. Like, in the industry, they call it hurry up and wait, but it's nothing like this, where you actually feel like you're in the middle. Like, you're not in heaven, you're not in hell, but you're in purgatory. That looping and doing the same thing over and over and over again could be why the gameplay is so repetitive. Having Akito in a place emotionally where he's mourning his sister but knows she's alive and needs to get to her, but he's also seeing death around him, constantly being able to set other spirits free while he's stuck in a never-ending limbo and cycle of hating himself, fighting, and anger for the things he couldn't control. Acceptance is a big problem. I feel like acceptance in death is such a big problem for a lot of people, and I'm no exception. I can't stand the fact that I'm not going to exist one day, but it's the one definitive finite thing about life is death. And I even discussed this in my Kenna Bridge of Spirits video. It's one of the things that I feel like is the most comforting, and the one certainty about life is that there is a death. There is, and that might sound morbid to an extent, but there is something certain about life. It might be the only certainty about life, but it is a certainty. We have some pretty heavy questions that Akito has to answer, and the player, if you look at it from a realistic standpoint, because you're watching this kind of movie unfold before you in this game, and you kind of have to think, well, do I want to do A or B or C? And you're really not left with much of a choice, since you can't do multiple choices within this game. It's more just a linear story that you have to process, which, by the way, I want to give like a little open parentheses, because there was something that I thought from hearing the interview, which I recorded my reaction to. You guys can watch that. There was something that I think the developer said of where this wasn't going to be a linear story. It was going to be more open, and it was very linear. There were 6 chapters of linear. So I don't understand. Maybe I misunderstood or whatever it may be. But from my understanding of hearing him speak on the game was that it was going to be more of pick your choice kind of thing, and it wasn't going to be linear at all whatsoever. Because that, I had the very opposite experience. I was like, oh my God, I love this. My very much anal personality loved this game in the sense that it went by chapters. There was waypoints. There was things telling me where to go and what to do. And I know some people don't like that, but I absolutely love it. I mean, I feel like if I'm in an open world game for too long and it's not telling me exactly where to go, I get very frustrated. Like, I need to at least have an objective of where I'm going, and then I can explore, do some things around the game, all that kind of stuff, but I need to have that objective, and that's what Ghostwire Tokyo does that I absolutely love. But getting back to the point that I was making before, we have some pretty heavy questions that Akito has to answer for. He is unable to accept the fact that his parents have died. He is unable to save his sister, so he mentally can't rest in peace, as it were. And he's unable to forgive how he acted through being really kind of stubborn, actually, within the entirety of the game. Even to KK, he's stubborn. He's a bit of an asshole. This kind of like must act now personality where he must not fail. He must not let Mari down, his sister. So when you have this tension in the game, it's because of that. It's because of his personality and how he must not fail, how he must be able to save his sister. Another question that I had personally was that all of the clothing that's around, much like Little Nightmares 2, I want to point this out, it has the same theme of where there's clothing all around, and I thought, could this potentially be a rapture kind of motif of where it states here that according to some Valerian teaching that the transportation of believers to heaven at the second coming of Christ, that's the rapture. So I'm not sure if this game is playing into that whatsoever, but it's definitely interesting to think about nonetheless. With Akito finally saying his farewells to his sister and finally accepting reality so he can live to the fullest, he and the player, I think, have learned that making the most of life while you're still on Earth is priority number 1. At some points of the game, this concept, the whole point of the story, really, I think gets lost and or muddled in the action, the running away from monsters, and the cheesy antics. But overall, when you look at this game from the psychological standpoint and classic horror standpoint, this game holds its own. Ghostwire Tokyo is horror in the modern world and creates a sense of urgency, unease, and emotions that will have you grabbing for the nearest tissue box. But you guys, I hope you all enjoyed this review on Ghostwire Tokyo. If you all like my face and what I do, please be sure to subscribe and hit the bell down below because I make videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Friday, there's actually going to be a double upload because I have some new games in my collection and I thought I'd do a monthly pickups. I haven't done one in a couple of months, so we're going to dive into that again. And I'm just really excited for you guys to see both the videos that I planned on Friday. Friday, it's going to be a cute reaction trailer review and the monthly pickups videos. I'm so excited. So with that being said, stay casually nerdy, you guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.